Start with the hard questions first. Your initial thoughts on the
postseason. Obviously we're really excited, and I think it's a great time, the year. And as I told the kids yesterday, this is what you play for. And these next 3 weeks are what you started back in August, and so it's an exciting time. As far as where you go or who you play, it's a lot of information to take in, from 45 minutes ago. But certainly we had a little end of the year banquet at my house on Saturday night and saw Rodon pitch against North Carolina. What a great game that was. And he's going to be on the USA team. So, I've heard about him. People talk about him all year, and of course, he's terrific. But as far as the other teams, William and Mary and Binghamton, I don't know much about. But we will find out a lot of information, in the next coming days.
What are your thoughts on your pitching going in right now?
Don't know what we're going to do. It's always, throw Bobby against William and Mary, or do you hold them one day? I'm not sure. We'll once we get the information, kind of look at some projected lineups, we'll probably make a decision in the next 24 hours or so.
Does that lead into it all, too? Because Mike would be the easier guy to come back on a potential Monday. Do you have to factor that in at all?
I think it's a factor, but I don't think you should think about that. To me, that would be a negative way of thinking, meaning that you got there but you lost and you're in a loser's bracket fighting your way back. So I don't know if that's necessarily the best way of looking at it, but I certainly think it's a factor. I think it's more, you got to win, the first 2 games to have the big advantage, and so you look at potential matchups, but we've never done it before. We've never been in this position or thought that it was the right thing to do, and I'd like to have at least 24 hours to think about it. But the good news for us is we have 2 guys that we have the utmost confidence in. We have 2 guys that have been on the big stage, have beaten big teams, and so I don't know if there is a right or wrong way, for us, and that's what I just want to spend some time with the staff and talk about it. But the good news is for us that we have 2 guys I think that could do it, and we'll wait to see.
Mike, there had been some speculation about you guys going to Louisville and facing Dan McDonnell. Had you thought much about that? Did you think that might be a storyline for you?
Speculation?
Yeah, I think I heard Chase say it.
That would be more than speculation. Yeah, that's the regional sites that come on the internet, and of course, and I mean this sincerely, I respect all those guys, like you guys that do so much for college baseball, but that they have no rhyme or reason. I mean, they're just picking teams, and and you send teams that are closest regionals, and so to be honest with you, people have told me that, but I never gave it much thought.
So you had a cookout the other night. You got a big family. Do you sit around and worry about where you might go, things like that, as this goes forward? Or you just
honestly, when they were announced last night, you look at the 16 teams and you realize that there's 4 places you won't go. There's 12 that you may go, and I don't know how you can figure it out from there. I didn't know, from Oregon to NC State to Florida State to Louisville. Indiana, I mean, Virginia Tech, you just don't know where you're going to go. Are they going to send you back to Virginia where you went a couple years ago? Mastoni was hoping for UCLA or Fullerton. So there's all those little side stories. But the truth is, the committee does what they think is right and sends people and tries to do the best job. And to me, after all these years, been to, I think this will be my 19th regional as a coach, and 11th here in 13 years, you can't figure it out, or if you're hosting, who they're sending. So, it's a lot of wasted energy.
Mike, what about winning the second game at Texas A&M last year and advancing like that? How does that help this team? Does it, that experience?
I heard you ask the other guys, and, they didn't really, I guess, give you a great answer for it.
No, I'm casting a wide net.
Yeah, and the thing is, more than just winning that game, I think being there. I think the important thing is, when I looked at last year's club and I looked out on the field, Bobby Wall had never been to a regional. Andrew Mastoni had never been to a regional. Austin Anderson had never been to a regional. And so when you look around the field, we had only had 4 players that had ever been to postseason. And we went to postseason like 9 or 10 years in a row, and all of a sudden you go, I never thought it'd be like this by missing 1 year. If you miss several years in a row, that's the obvious thing, and you're inexperienced. But when you look up, and Huber, Mathis, Yarbrough, and Snyder, were the only guys that had ever been, you go, wow. And I think that's a big deal. You know, now when we go, we'll have 20-something players that had been in postseason. And I think that's a big deal. I think it's a big deal knowing what it's all about, knowing that you can compete, and back to your question, knowing that, you know, you were that close, you know, from moving on. I think they'll feel a little more comfortable, a little more confident going into this regional.
Happy for East Tennessee State and Bond and Barksdale. both
Oh, no
getting in.
doubt, yes.
Those guys.
You know, I actually didn't see it last night. I'm mad at myself. I knew they were playing, you know, slipped my mind as the regionals, you know, were coming out, but checked it first thing this morning, and you know, excited for those guys. Tough draw, but excited for those guys.
Okay.
Thanks.